This is day 28. Time is non-negotiable. This morning I caught myself arguing with a clock that had not done anything wrong. I wanted our little startup to sprint when it had just learned to stand. Every message I sent had the sense of urgency. Every calendar block I placed had the tension of a pulled bowstring. Then I opened the back door and the air hit like an honest friend. Our small patch of garden waited there with its patient answers. The tomato vines are shy in the cold months. They do not care about my pitch deck. They do not care about my deadlines. They grow by a rule older than in my own ambition. They accept light, they draw from the soil, and they expand along with their timetable. I stood there and stared at the places where fruit would be in the warmer season. And for a few minutes, I felt the old lesson move from my head back into my bones. Real transformation follows natural patterns, not mechanical processes. I know this, yet I forget. And when I forget, I push. When I push against nature, I get the opposite of what I intended. Inside, I opened a notebook that has dented lines where I have pressed hard in the past with a pen on certain days. The pages are a small field report on impatience. I notice how often I've written the word faster. I also notice there is a quiet counter melody, small notes about people, relationships, conversations, about users who need time to trust something new, about the product revealing itself in layers. I remembered something I once wrote about investments that take time to mature. There are no shortcuts to sustainable results. Time is a non-negotiable factor. It is not a villain that steals. It is a medium that carries life. I poured a glass of water and watched it sit there, and even that became a kind of a sermon to me. The swirl faded, the surface calmed. I thought about the way growth often happens when we have the humility to stop stirring the container. You can pull a plant to make it taller. The stem will snap. You can double the flame under a stew. It will scorch on the bottom. You can pressure a team to deliver beyond the capacity of the roots. You will get decay, disease, or death. That is not a threat from the universe. It is a principle. Violate it and you will pay. Later, I walked the neighborhood. A dog barked with the vigor of a creature that knows nothing about venture timelines. A child dragged a stick along a fence, and the simple rhythm pulled my mind away from spreadsheets and back to the ground. I remembered this tree near the park that fell last year. When the city cut the trunk, the rings were right there, a map of seasons printed in the wood. There were years of plenty, wide bands, and years of drought that were narrow and tight. There was no ring marked by panic. There was no ring marked by artificial haste. The tree grew with respect for pace, and by doing so, it survived storms that a faster kind of growth would not have endured. Back at my desk later, I opened our product we're working on, and I moved through the flows as if they were a new customer. I tried to see what we really had rather than what I wanted to have. There are places where it sings. There are places where it wobbles. Those notes of wobble will not disappear because I write more urgent emails. They will disappear because I water the roots that feed those screens. Clearer copy, a smoother handoff between services, better instrumented feedback, small things done daily that create a living system. We keep thinking we can wire a machine together, flip a switch, and watch an instant harvest. Yet the only harvest that lasts is the one nurtured by patience and repetition. I thought about people that I admire, not because they moved quickly, but because they moved faithfully. They were not lazy, they worked hard, often harder than anyone else, but they refused to bargain with time. They planted, they tended, they pruned, and they let the seasons do their part. When the momentum finally came, it looked like an overnight success from the outside. From the inside, it was the gentle accumulation of days. I sent fewer messages in the afternoon. I asked better questions instead. I gave one teammate time to think, which is a rare gift in our age, and his answer hours later made made a new feature breathe. That small delay was not a cost, it was an investment. Users are not fields that you can plow faster to make seeds sprout sooner. They are people. Trust grows the way ivy grows on bricks. It takes purchase where it can. It hesitates at sharp corners. It learns the shape of its environment. Push too hard and the surface just simply tears. There's a part of me that still loves the adrenaline of the rush. I can make dashboards pulse and meetings hum, and sometimes that is the right medicine. But if the dashboard becomes my calendar and the hum becomes the story, I have forgotten why we started this at all in the first place. We began because we believed something true about a problem, and we trusted that a careful solution, offered with courage, would find its people. That belief deserves the dignity of time. In the evening, I returned back to my backyard, to my garden. I sprinkled a little water around the base of trees, tugged at a weed here and there that had the audacity to prosper in the absence of tending. I smiled at that. Neglect and desperation both grow the wrong things. Care and calm grow the right ones. The sun went down, the shadows changed shape. Nothing in that scene was a hurry, yet everything was moving. As I closed the door to my backyard, I set a small intention for the next morning. I would still work with intensity, like I could ever stop doing that. I would still press forward, but I would remember that intensity and patience are not enemies. Intensity is how I show up. Patience is how I stay. Organic growth asks for both. It asks for the discipline to plant and the humility to wait. It asks for the courage to stop measuring things every hour and to start tending to things every day. So if you find yourself arguing with the clock, step outside if you can. Notice the ringed wisdom of the trees in your neighborhood. Watch how water calms when left to itself. Then come back inside and give your work the tenderness of time. In my experience, that is when the right kind of speed finally arrives. Not the frantic kind that burns bright and fades, but the living kind that carries weight and holds together. And if you sense that the season is slow, take heart. You are not behind, you are in rhythm. The harvest will not be hurried, and that is the good news.